India is set to play 5 tests at the Perth Stadium, Adelaide Oval, Gabba, Melbourne Cricket Ground, MCG, and Sydney Cricket Ground, SCG, from 22nd November to 7th January. Discussing the upcoming 2024-25 Border Gavaskar Trophy, Australia great Matthew Hayden here said that the Australian team is in a transition period and vulnerable at the top, with the need for a new opening batter to replace David Warner. NDA Australia Cricket with Matthew Hayden, Harbhajan Singh and Sunil Gavaskar. Vertical bar photo credit, special arrangement. Discussing the upcoming 2024-25 Border Gavaskar Trophy, Australia great Matthew Hayden here said that the Australian team is in a transition period and vulnerable at the top, with the need for a new opening batter to replace David Warner. Well, it's a time in Australian cricket where it's a transition period. And so, we're vulnerable at the top. I was very forthright in saying this. Steve Smith should never have been the opening batter for Australia. And I still believe that's the case. So, we are on the lookout for, I believe, another opening batter to replace the great David Warner, who's had an exceptional career. He really, I feel, built on the legacy that JL, Justin Langer, and I created in our period. He went better. Whereas our strike rate was 65 to 70, the way Warner was 80 and sometimes more, he said during the panel discussion on the India-Australia cricket with the legendary Sunil Gavaskar and former India off-spinner Harbhajan Singh at the launch of the Australia-India Summer of Cricket, organized by the Australian Consulate in partnership with Cricket Australia, CA, and the Centre for Australia-India Relations. It's really a battle of the top order. And Australian cricket has put itself in a position where it's kind of got no further games to really anticipate what it's going to look like ahead of the Border Gavaskar Trophy. So, that's the only question mark. If I were to do a SWOT analysis on us as a group, that would be my only question mark, he added. India is set to play 5 tests at the Perth Stadium, Adelaide Oval, Gabba, Melbourne Cricket Ground, MCG, and Sydney Cricket Ground, SCG, from 22nd November to 7th January. I've played in 3-match series, and that's not enough. 4's an awkward number. You can't get your teeth into it. But 5 has just got it all on the line. You can get behind in the series. You can come back in the series. And that's why the Ashes, which has now been reduced to 5 or 6, is still a great series. Because it sways in roundabouts. And you have to be up for it because it's a long tour, said Hayden. Asked for his wish list for the series, Gavaskar said, "My wish list is, obviously, India should continue to be winning us 3 in Australia, twice they've won now, and so for the 3rd time as well. Hope it's a good, close series with the matches going into the 5th day. A lot of test matches finish in 3.5-4 days. A 5-day test would be fantastic for everybody concerned. I just hope that happens because that means that it won't be one-sided. It will mean that the balance of power will move from day 1 to day 2. Test matches in the earlier days used to be like an Indian soap. So, on the first day, the mother-in-law is the boss, on the second day, the daughter-in-law is the boss, and on the third day, the mother-in-law is the boss. That's what happens in Indian TV serials. Something like that you want to see, where Australia and India keep on dominating for 4 days alternately, and maybe on the 5th day the team that has really got that greater desire goes out and wins. That would be, obviously, the wish list, and all 5 test matches should have a result. That would be absolutely fantastic. In the 1977 India-Australia series, Australia won 3-2. You just want that kind of a situation where you have a result in every game. On an individual level, maybe for Virat Kohli, who's got 4 centuries on 4 different venues, that he becomes the third overseas player who's scored a century in all the Australian venues. I think he doesn't have one at the Gabba. I think he's got it everywhere else. So if he gets a century at the Gabba, that means he joins me and Alastair Cook as the third overseas batter to have got a century at all the Australian venues. That would be fantastic. Because if he gets runs, India will get a lot of runs as well. When asked for his prediction for the series, Hayden said, "Just to sum this up, I'll paint out what it's going to look like. Australia is gonna win the first test in Perth. So, dropping wicket, but it's about 12 millimeters grass that your Indian top order can look forward to, 12 millimeters of very bright green grass. Josh, Hazelwood, Pat, Cummins and Mitchell Stark will bother you with pace. And for Nathan, Lyon, I guess, the ball will really bounce there as well. Come across to Adelaide, Kuldeep will turn it. It's a drop-in wicket as well. It also starts a little grassy, but what tends to happen is it tends to get foot marks and so you'll win that game. And then, you'll come across to Brisbane and Australia will win that test match, because it's just one of those venues which is classically in favor of us. Also read, India in T20 World Cup 2024, Rohit among Indian players to arrive in NYC, Kohli, Hardik to join later. So, now you've come to Melbourne, and India comes back hard. You saw the passion and the rivalry at that 2020 Test match. That venue is home to well over 700,000 expats. That'll be Australia's away game. It's the only away game that Australia will actually play. So, now you're two all up, then you go to Sydney, and that's when eyeballs start to meet and rivalry starts to happen. Because everyone's tight. Conditions not being drop-in, they start to then become fierce. Whoever starts that test match really well, will find it hard to also lose the test match, because once you get into day 3, day 4, and in particular day 5, it's a batting graveyard. It becomes really hard to score. Sometimes it's tricky in the middle couple of days, but often it's very hard to score. So, I'm going to just leave it to all. And I'm going to hedge my bets into that 5th test match because I can't wait to see that one. That's my favorite test match when India tours Australia, because it does turn and the wicket becomes a little tricky to bat on as well.